solutions have been unsuccessful in replicating interpersonal teaching methods. But increasing numbers of students and never enough teachers require that new technologies provide a solution.
Changing the system to suit the changes in technology and society was the issue raised by Joseph Oakey, president of the Autodesk Foundation.
So when I look at the needed changes in education, I think it's very simple. Adding a layer of technology on top of our existing structure is counterproductive. I don't think, the reason I say it's counterproductive, I think it may create an incremental improvement. There's no question it'll make an improvement, but it'll make an incremental improvement and people will be happy with that incremental improvement. I think it needs substantial restructuring.
Agreeing with Oakey was David Thornburg, director of the Thornburg Center for Professional Development.
I like to start by suggesting that when you're traveling at the speed of light, you don't need a rear view mirror. And what I mean by that is that when we take a look at bringing technology into our classrooms, we shouldn't be using it to bolster up the curriculum of the past. It's a totally inappropriate use of technology. So several people have commented very eloquently on that topic this morning, that we need to understand technology in the context of what it means to prepare our students for their future, not to prepare them for our past. So that's the first point.
Before the summit, participants broke into task force groups to address specific aspects of a master plan for education technology. Don Ely summarized the panel's observations.
A few things to kind of summarize what we've said here, what I think we've said, and to launch you into the afternoon activity. The program also calls for a brief address. I'm going to make a very brief address and turn it into the instructions to participants. So I'll blend those two things and try to be as succinct as possible. The themes that seem to emerge in no particular order of importance, an overall observation, a lot of things are happening in California. A lot of things, and that's both the good news and the bad news because they're not enough. Good things happening, many places, model programs, money being put into technology programs, but it's clear from all of the panel comments that much more needs to be done. And to do that, one of the first steps, and one of the probably least costly steps, is to improve communication, collaboration, and cooperation among the units who are doing all of these things. I've discovered a number of new things just this morning, and I expect you have too. How do we develop the connections, the networks, electronic and otherwise, that will keep people in touch with each other so that we can use what has been gained in some of these other programs and share with others what we have learned to extend the best that we know about technology and what works.
That evening, at a dinner sponsored by Mind Extension University, the Education Network, the summit participants received a glimpse into the future of communication technology from Glenn R. Jones, Chairman and CEO. He discussed the impact of an accelerating flow of information upon society, and he outlined the role of Mind Extension University, the Education Network, as a 21st century communications tool for meeting these challenges.
What we like to do is sort of walk out 10, 20 years and stop and turn around and look at the environment and see how we got there. And when you do that, you can see some trends, and we call it scanning. But you could see the cable television industry, for instance, with billions of dollars of assets, worth of assets, waiting for more efficient use in terms of unused capacities. And then as you scanned, you could see the educational environment, schools, colleges, universities, with billions of dollars of assets waiting for more efficient use because they were more or less landlocked. And we thought by throwing a few $1 million in between, we could create a fusion process that would create something entirely new in a sense that would be very productive in our environment. And that was how we came to create Mind Extension University.
Jones, a member of the Board of Trustees for the U.S. Library of Congress, also discussed the Global Library Project.
We didn't have a library for Mind Extension University, so I thought, well, you know, the best library in the world to be a library for Mind Extension University would be the Library of Congress. And so I went to the Library of Congress and I talked to the librarian about starting a thing called the Global Library Project, which would be to communicate the contents, to articulate the contents of the library to the rest of the world.
The task force groups, each reflecting a broad range of expertise in education, technology, management, and planning, filed their reports. They began with a presentation on access to instructional learning resources provided by Bonnie O'Brien from the Los Angeles Unified School District. The group focused on the importance of developing a statewide database of learning resources, using all available technologies and available to all schools throughout the state. The Electronic Networking Committee followed with a description of the communications pathway required for linking California schools and a call for legislative action to bring down the political and economic barriers to its utilization. A discussion on disseminating information and resources followed, with a presentation by Don Zundell with the Sonoma County Office of Education. The Task Force Committee echoed the importance of creating a centralized clearinghouse for multimedia and building a communications highway for accessing its resources. With consensus building on the important components for a master plan, the next task force to report addressed the critical problems that need to be addressed.
Teaching professionalism, the whole professional aspect of education and teaching, facilities, funding, curriculum instruction and assessment, which was kind of a catch-all, demographics and social factors, which was a very high priority, and the reason we shadowed the latter two, governance and staff development, was to point out how lucky we were in that we could cast off all of our stuff to two other groups.
Stuart Gothold with the Los Angeles County Office of Education described the necessary preamble for a master plan that addresses these issues.
One, that it would provide access to the greatest possible information base at the least possible cost. Otherwise, why go all the trouble statewide? Second, we would want it to avoid duplication of effort. We've heard earlier about a lot of different activities that are already going on in the state, and a master plan needs to address those and bring them into some kind of cohesive whole. Third, the plan should encourage, provide incentives of some kind, and I think certainly cost efficiency would be one, in the development of statewide, and as we just heard from the previous speaker, regional delivery systems. The key here, I think, is coordination. And four, they should provide and support interactivity so that the user can make the most out of what is available.
Reporting on the master plan's professional development component were Tom DeLapp with the Association of California School Administrators and Sherry Hergott with the Technology Center of Silicon Valley. Tom described the role of the school site as the glue that holds together the elements of career-long training. Sherry Hergott discussed the importance of ensuring that teachers are properly prepared for utilizing education technology through meeting their personal requirements for effective professional development. Cindy Simonson, Assistant General Manager for Sacramento Cable and a college educator, filed the report for the Task Force on Student Learning. The group highlighted the importance of providing the students access to the technology and incorporating technology into the Education 2000 strategy. Reporting on evaluation and accountability was Barbara O'Connor with Cal State University in Sacramento, who discussed matching outcomes of the plan with the constraints on achieving accountability. The group addressing administrative uses of technology profiled the role of administrators as facilitators in the learning process and advocated an individualized education plans for each student. Addressing the role of partners in the learning process were Andy Deneau with the Los Angeles Education Partnership and Emily Nahat from the California Department of Education. They encouraged the creation and dissemination of a resource guide on forming partnerships and a state distinguished business education program. Craig Blurton, director of the California Technology Project, summarized the findings of the task force on governance and legislative authorization. They recommended a market-driven statewide agency that is linked with all appropriate groups, including the legislature and governor's office, and can coordinate the use of technology resources across all educational sectors. Following the final presentation, Don Ely brought the two-day summit to a close with a summary of its findings and a glimpse of the course that lies ahead.
What I was trying to do as I listened to all of these reports was to determine the themes that were running through. And one theme that ran through every report was the idea of information communication, statewide database, multimedia oriented, the networking, the need for communication through such an organization. Another theme that seemed to run through almost all the reports was access, intellectual physical access, pathways, highways were used, must be in California, freeways, anytime, any place, anybody, equity, access. Another theme, collaboration, especially of course with the partnership group, but others using existing networks and consortia for dissemination, regional and otherwise. Need to work with business and industry, idea of internships, partnerships, liaison people. A lot of comments in most of the reports, or by inference or directly, for staff development based on needs, that it's pointless unless the staff development, the technology is pointless unless staff development is part of it, that it ought to be part of the procurement. Concern for the user, the ultimate person who uses the results of all these efforts, that it should be need-based, that it should be user-friendly, that it should support personnel are necessary to help make all of these things work.
In the months following this historic event, the California Commission on Education Technology has published a copy of the summit's findings and commenced its development of the master plan. For copies of the proceedings, contact John Cradler at the Far West Laboratory for Educational Research and Development. The California Planning Commission for Educational Technology and the California Educational Technology Summit Planning Committee are thankful to these summit sponsors. Mind Extension University, the Education Network, and Sacramento Cable are pleased to provide this video presentation on the 1991 California Education Technology Summit.